Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now it is time to introduce our main speaker for tonight, Carrie W.
Probably a drug addict too. So I got here drooling on myself at the Venice Methadone Clinic, walking around the house with a propane torch like this because it was 1984, and if it melted, I smoked it. Let's see. I want to thank Paul for asking me to share. Thank you so much, Paul. You always make me feel so special in Alcoholics Anonymous. Every time you see me, you're so loving. And I want to say I'm a victory of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, this was my 28th cake I took here at Rodeo. It used to be somewhere else, and on Rodeo. What an idea. And I got a lot of history in this room. I was secretary of Rodeo when it was on Rodeo. And I know so many people, and I have such love and support in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that is my strength. That is my self-worth. And that is what keeps me coming back here. It's the love, you know, that I got when I came into these rooms. And like they say, let us love you until you can love yourself, because it wasn't even a concept for me. When I heard the only requirement is the desire to stop drinking, I thought, well, that's kind of sexy, desire. I haven't heard that in a long time. And then when they said, we practice these principles in all our affairs, I thought, oh, good, we're having affairs. You know, I was like, I was so pickled. Anyway, okay, so what we wore, what happened, and what we wear now. I jumped into a jumpsuit I couldn't seem to jump out of for about 6 years. And it looked like an aerial view of Vietnam from me nodding out with cigarettes. I had 6 greasy hairs popping out of my head, and what teeth were left in my head looked like they were made out of wood. And God, I was just such a threat of life when I got here. You know, I just want to say a couple of things about alcoholism, and I like how Noah said housekeeping. And Noah, I didn't know orange juice didn't come with vodka. Where are you? Oh, you know, I mean, what a concept. This is not a moral issue. If I could make my drink be different or my drug be different, I would. You know, this is a cellular difference. I always knew that. I never wanted to be around anybody that wasn't a drug addict or an alcoholic. I'm still not. You're still my favorite people. And it's a family illness, as far as I'm concerned. I was conceived in a vat of alcohol, my mother's womb, and the seed was loaded, Dad. And I just came out saying, where's my drink? And my mother said, mix some drinks for Johnny and I, because my father left when I was about 2 years old. I was born on a little street called Burton Way. It was called the gateway to Beverly Hills. I call it the gateway to hell. And one of those stepfathers, one of those boyfriends married my mother and picked us up and took us out to Pacoima, and which was a big cultural, I was just getting Rosewood Elementary down. You know how we are, we like to know what's happening. And he became a molesting, child abusing stepfather, and it was safer for me to be in gangs across the tracks in San Fernando than it was for me to go home. And from mixing drinks for my mother, I started sipping those drinks. I knew immediately that was what it was. That's where it was at. My mother was an artist. She worked at home. She used to do cartoons, and she was an inker and a painter. And she didn't work at home because she didn't have a place to go. She worked at home so she could drink. And I would see her through that amber glass, that bourbon and 7-Up. And that was my connection to my mother. Like I say, I started sipping those drinks when I was about 5. I started making one for myself. I was like the adolescent bartender, and I had my own drink, hiding behind the bar. My first drink was sneaking, and that was it. I just knew that was what it was all about. I don't remember like feelings. I just remember, get that stuff in you. That's really feels good. That's all it was. I never saw a newspaper in my house. Nobody read. They just drank. And I love this. I have this friend that 12-stepped me for 12 years, and she kept putting all this literature in my mailbox. I thought, what is she, crazy? She think junkies read? What is wrong with her? And such little print and no pictures. Anyway, so Pacoima, it was very cool, and I had the best time of my life there. I really started getting it down. I started building some roots. I had this gang that was like family for me. And one night when I was 10 years old, a party got busted. And the police came into the back room where I was, already a wreck at 10. They told me to go away, my friends, my 16-year-old and 20-year-old friends. And the cop said, "How old are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm fine. How are you?" And they said, "Wrong answer, young lady. You're coming with us." So I was arrested at 10 years old, and I got the message from my disease, and I'm show of hands, anybody else that ever got this message, you better be careful, they could take this away from you. So I protected and served my disease. That was my main function. I never wanted to get arrested. I never wanted anybody to take my drink or my drug away from me. And I believe that part of the ism or the resistance to getting sober when we are violating against our very hearts and souls with our messes and our accidents and our dangerous life that we live is that I had so much, by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I had so much invested into my protection and drugs and alcohol that I did not want to let that go. I came through 6 hospitals, and the last hospital, I smuggled smack into Century City Hospital. When the nurse came in and saw me in the bathroom, like trying to get high, she took my smack away from me, and I told her I was going to call the police if she didn't give that back to me for taking my property. She said, "Yeah, why don't you call the cops and tell them I got your hair on, honey?" I'm like, oh, okay. Started once in a while, some reality would seep in. So that was only the 4th hospital. By the time I got to Coldwater Canyon Hospital, and I'll track it a little differently for you in a minute, but I had this, I came in with this Mickey Big Mouth. I always thought, well, if I was driving with those, I could put the top on and say, nothing's open, And I bought a car because it had cruise control. That was, don't drink and drive. No, be cool when you do it. Get it what's the speed limit? Okay, we got it. Now I like smoke and drink and drive. Anyway, they tried to pry this bottle of beer out of my hand. I'm like walking into the hospital with 2 hefty bags full of like detox wardrobe in case I meet somebody. Don't network in the nut house, that's my motto. Anyway, and they said, "Let go, Carrie, let go." And I was like, I just want to get rid of heroin. This is just beer, for God's sakes. I just couldn't correlate it because I had a lifetime of just using. Okay, so back to Pacoima and getting busted. And then the stepfather, he got caught with, everybody on the block. And my mother went through San Fernando and Pacoima in alcoholic fashion, bar to bar to bar to bar, man to man, and I ended up in a foster home. She disappeared, and I was in this foster home for about 3 years. And then she came back after I was like, I had it all down, you know what I mean? I was like all like into, I had my perfectly stacked Pachuco hairdo and had the Pachuco hop down, and I was like in it. And Von Dutch was painting, I'm vintage, by the way, myself. Von Dutch was actually painting these cars, and my dream, it's still my dream, I want to have a candy apple something. I want a car, I want those pipes, it still thrills me. Anyway, so then my mother came back and picked me up from Pacoima, from this foster home, and dropped me off back in a Hollywood High. And so now here I am, the perfect Pachuco, and now I'm in a Hollywood High, and somebody comes up to me, I'm sitting on this bench, at Hollywood High, they called it the quad. I'm like, the only Q letter words I knew was like a quarter and quick. And this girl comes up to me and she says, "Excuse me, are you a Delta?" I said, "No, I think I'm a Lutheran. Why? What's it to you?" You know. And it seems there were all these clubs that were just as hardcore as any of the gangs out in San Fernando. And of course, I became a Delta. You know how we are. Living well is the best revenge. And Hollywood High now became, Pacoima was all about the Southern comfort, slow gin. This is how I remember my life, not anything else. I remember the music and the drinks and the drugs. I don't know, who was president or what was happening or what I studied, what a funny word. I'm still suspicious of people who said they're alcoholics and went to college. I'm like, really? I don't know. They asked me what did I get on my GPA, and I said, I don't think I took GPA. Why? I spent 3 years at Hollywood High, across the street of the Pancake House, melting these diet pills. And then I had a job after school, and then I could come home and do all your homework and needle point the driveway if I wanted to. I was like, well, and somehow that transpired for a big, long life where I was like, my idea of a good evening was a 6-day run. So Hollywood High, and everybody went off to college, and I didn't know I was going to be an actress, because that's what you do when you go to Hollywood High. And plan B was somebody had asked me to model for them in beauty school, and then I was like, God, you can go to school and learn how to do your hair? That's fantastic. And then I saw all these crazy people, my people in hair, I think Hairdressers Anonymous, we're all in here. And I became a hairdresser. I put myself through beauty school, working at Bob's Big Boy, and all the time it was all about the drugs. I was drinking, and I was doing this diet pills, the Dreen sisters, Dexedrine, Benzedrine, whatever. And then some guy that when I'd have a break, because I'd go to school in the daytime and then I'd work at night, and it was all fine, and study in between, so we'd go out partying. There'd be like about 2 nights, and this guy said to me one time, he said, we're all a group and having fun, and he said, well, my folks think we ought to get married. I'm like, oh, okay, sounded better than what I was doing. Oh, your folks with that swimming pool in Reseda? That sounds nice. I was like, I just wanted a break. I've been having a midlife crisis since I was 16. Anyway, so we got married, and he didn't come home one night, and he wasn't with a girl, he was with a guy, and I said, well, that's nice, but I don't think I want to work with this. And the point of this story is that he wasn't all that gay for 5 minutes, and I was pregnant, and I didn't know that. We had this marriage annulled, and so I knew, and that was a spiritual awakening for me at this time, to give that child for adoption, because I was going to be recreating the scene of the crime. I knew I was an alcoholic at 17. I knew I was going to now be my mother, the alcoholic with the only child, and it just seemed like the only fair thing to do, and it was very difficult in the 60s to do that, because people frowned upon it, whatever. I knew it was the thing to do. The reason why I tell you this story is, and I'm going to loop you back up to fast forward to 5 years of sobriety and working these steps and making these amends and saying to all of you that part of my program, the big sentence is, you never know the point of the exercise. We just do what we're told, and you never know the point of the exercise. And this man that I had made amends to, that I was married to for 3 months because I was so rude to him for the rest of his life. He was a hairdresser. We both worked in Beverly Hills, and people would say, oh, I didn't know you were married to so-and-so. I said, oh, that guy. I was like big and famous celebrity hairdresser. I said, why does that guy say that? He just wants to be near me or something. We went to beauty school together. I mean, I was just like, I didn't want to talk about really that I had had a child with him. I didn't want to face any kind of reality. I didn't want to have any sense of responsibility to feelings. I didn't want to feel anything. That's my story. I never wanted to feel anything except good. So I made amends to him when I had about 5 years of, early, my first couple of years of sobriety. And when I had 5 years of sobriety, he called me and he said, remember our child? And I'm like, well, yeah, I think I spent my life trying to forget about that. He said, I had dinner with her last night. She's looking for you. May I give her your phone number? And I mean, this is talk about, with not believing in God and a power greater than myself. I mean, if I ever wanted to try to find that child, I for sure have to know what day she was born, which I had blocked out of my head, let alone the minutes. You know, they get pretty specific when you're looking for someone. And she has been in my life now for the last, 25 years. And that is just nothing I had in my head when I came here getting sober, and I had little girls in junior high, that I was ever going to meet this daughter, I don't know about God or any of that stuff. I don't understand God, but I know that Alcoholics Anonymous is a power greater than myself. And I respect the power of Alcoholics Anonymous, I like more a lot. And Alcoholics Anonymous has never not been enough for me, which is phenomenal. I'm still in awe. I'm still clean and sober. People say, oh, you can't have your pink cloud. I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't come here to have a bad time. I'm keeping my pink cloud, and hey, you get off of my cloud. I love the part in the big book in the Freedom from Bondage where it tells us there's a prayer for resentments. It tells us that resentments will kill us, that resentments will take us out. We take the poison and wait for you to die, whoever we're pissed off at. And then the solution is that we're supposed to pray for somebody for 2 weeks. I thought, well, I'm never going to be that mad at anybody. I'm not praying for them, and I can't stand them. Why would I pray for them? And all my old ideas got shifted and changed. Okay, so had that baby, done, moving along. And then somebody else was nice to me right before I did have that baby and said, well, you're going to say thank you and marry me or not? I'm like, oh, okay, I'll marry you. And the other point of this is that drugs and alcohol dictated my life, made all my decisions. I wanted everybody to be okay so I could get high. Are you okay? Are you all right? Is everything okay? Great, because I'm going to get high now. And just don't bug me, I keep saying and we used to when we were new, we always have little posses. We used to sit and count how many times that speaker said 25 times. Anyway, so I married that guy, and that was terrible. He didn't drink or do drugs. That was the worst marriage ever. I had 3 marriages and 5 children out of my body before I was 29 years old. And, well, there you go. I left that marriage with 2 little kids under my arms, running and screaming. That ended up being a very domestic, violent kind of a marriage. And I was a mess with that guy. It wasn't even... There was no hope for that, because anybody that gets in between me and my drugs and my alcohol, you got to fight that you're never gonna You're never going to win. And I say to all of you, we are never going to beat alcoholism. The best we can ever do is put it into remission. And I don't mess around in here. I'm not in Alcoholics Anonymous to see what I can get away with. I already did that, and I lived, which is shocking. I don't do near beer because it's not a good idea for me to be near beer, Until they get the near heroin and the near cocaine, I'm staying away from the near beer. I could go to a doctor, I could call a doctor in Beverly Hills and tell him I got a back pain and I could get a morphine drip, It is my responsibility to stay sober. It wasn't the dealer's responsibility to call me and say, how's your gram, dearie? Is it down a little? It has always been I paid good attention to my drug using and my alcohol. Why would I think that I would come here and somebody's going to do all this for me? I love when I see somebody new or somebody that goes out or whatever, and they are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. I believe that the success here is based on what it tells us, the capacity to be honest. And I just feel lucky that I have some sense of capacity to be honest. And, when they said our defects of character, know the exact nature of our defects of character, I thought, what do I look like, Freud? I don't know the exact nature of defects of character. Okay, rolling around here, let's see. 28 years, I'm still in awe, I'm still here, and I have 28 years of sobriety. I mean, when I came into, after the 6th hospital, and don't be mad at me if I'm jumping around, don't be mad, I'm very blonde, been blonde too long. When I came out, I used waiting for a ride from the 6th hospital to the recovery house, and I somehow survived in that recovery house. I thought, if I can't make it in this recovery house, for 30 days, how am I going to make it in the whole big world? Something kind of shifted for me. And when I was coming down the stairs of that friendly house after the 3rd day where I had been put into scalding tubs, because even though I came out of the hospital, I still had been on all kinds of meds and Darvocets and I don't know what, and then I used on top of that. It was like, boom, I had never gone to a hospital and gotten clean from anything, and I wanted to pull my spine out of my back with my bare hands. And so they'd put me in the scalding tub, so hot where I could not feel my body in this recovery house. And and I'm plotting all the way how to get out of there. The doors are open. The doors are open. We have to want this recovery. I mean, we're the ones in charge here. We were the ones in charge out there. We certainly defeat science, so we can still make it here. I always say we got a long time to be dead. What's the rush? Okay, so here's my key point to this is that when I was walking down the stairs, this lady who is still my sponsor, who runs the friendly house, Peggy, put her arms around me and she said, and remember, my dear, you never have to do this again. I thought, Carrie, I think she's telling you something very important here, very important. Because I was so broken and so tired and so did not know how I was going to not do this again. But I knew this was an authority. I didn't know how to do this, and I started having the reverence and the courtship with Alcoholics Anonymous because they made me write how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail. What a huge sentence that is. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has followed, not created one of their own, followed our path. That is a sentence so generous that tells us not only have people given their lives for us to get this thing here, but that I don't know how, it doesn't change. People change. We're all so busy shouting God could and would if he were sought, and I think we should be shouting probably no human power could relieve us. Because I think the illness is the codependency that I'm not enough, that this drink makes me better. That I'm not enough, this drug makes me better, smarter, taller, younger, more brilliant, whatever. So let's see, recovery house, Peggy. Oh, when I was new. Oh, God, what a nightmare I was. I was hysterical. There were 3 of us, and we would go to All Feng's, this Chinese restaurant, And we'd sit there and they say, what would you like to eat? Nothing, just bring the mustard and we'll have tea. You know, and they bring that wasabi, that hot Chinese mustard, and we take turns and we'd eat a spoon of it, and our eyes would blow out of our head, and the tears would come in, and we'd laugh. Oh, God, isn't sobriety fun? Because it felt like we had like a big hit of Coke or something, you know. I mean, the response was the same, physically, not in the mentals, but anyway. I always tell everybody, look, it's all in here. I just add water. I don't need a thing. I'm cool. I'm still waiting for that last booster to kick in, which reminds me of another story. That when I was, we didn't have, towards the end, we didn't have cell phones. I mean, sometimes some real fancy people did. Hello? It was like, what is that? That's a phone. Like, wow, you know, it was. And so anyway, it was a lot of phone booths around this town. And so it was like dialing for dealers. When I first got sober, I'd jones by the phone booths, not that dealer's house. You know, I'd be like, oh, God, that phone booth. And there was one on Laurel Canyon on its way to the gateway to heaven, Sunset and Crescent Heights, where the gas station is there. And every morning there'd just be this trudge of line of people, like just the walking dead, waiting to use that phone to get the connection up to go to Laurel Canyon. And nobody had a car, by the way. It was a gas station. Nobody had a car. We were all busy with this phone booth. And one time I was in there and the dealer wasn't home. Dialing for dealers, dialing. Oh, maybe he's walking in the door. Oh, maybe he's in the bathroom. Dial again. I'll wait one more second. People are screaming at you, get out, it's my turn, you know, yelling. And I was so sick. And I looked down at the bottom of this phone booth and I saw this red something. I was sure whatever it was, if I took it, I was going to feel better or die. Either one was like a good option. Than the condition that I was in. It could have been a suppository for dogs for worms. I don't know what the hell it was. Or probably a Tic Tac, because nothing ever happened. Obviously, I didn't die, and I never got high from it. But, you know, if I ever need to remind myself how crazy I got, the insanity of my behavior, thinking the things that I did were a good idea, is what I carry with myself today for not using. With my track record, and probably a few of you, because I don't think anybody came in here because they, broke a fingernail. If I ever think that a drink or a drug is a good idea, I'm always going to think it's an idea. If somebody says, well, I'm having a lot of problems, but, drinking and using isn't an option, it's always an option if you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, but it's not a good one. And for me, the insanity is where my disease lives. So my job here in Alcoholics Anonymous is to protect my sanity. That's all. And they give us some tools called Hungry, Angry, Lonely, Tired, so that I can check. I never knew I could check anything, or that there was a beginning, middle, or an end to anything. And that hungry, I need to be responsible for my food, because if I don't eat right, I get crazy. If I get mad, I get crazy. If I isolate and stop going to meetings, I'm going to get crazy. And T for tired, people sign murder confessions. You can keep you up all night. I'll sign anything. What? Let me sleep, because I'll be crazy. So I think it's just about the sanity to protect that we have here. We're still like crazy anyway, but we need to recognize it, and we do build, and we do get well, and God, life is unbelievable. And if 10 people tell you you have a tail, you better turn around and check your ass. Thank you so much.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. to install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.